This is wrestling's greatest moments.
Hey now, wrestling fans, it's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at Forgotten Tag Team Feuds 1980s Edition, Volume 1. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. The 1980s is known for its rich roster of tag teams and the many feuds involving them. However, some feuds have been overshadowed. This has led to some great feuds missing out on Best Of list, something Wrestling's Greatest Moments intends to fix. Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood versus the Brisco brothers, Jack and Jerry. Ask wrestling fans about Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood's many wars involving Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling's, aka Jim Crockett Promotion, NWA World Tag Team Championship, and they'll likely mention their feud with Sergeant Slaughter and Don Kernodle. Likewise, ask fans about brothers Jerry and Jack Brisco, and they'll talk about the Briscoes' endless campaigns against Terry and Dory Funk Jr. Consequently, this has led some fans to overlook Steamboat and Youngblood's 1983 feud against the Briscoes. Jack and Jerry worked many unforgettable programs in their heyday in the 1970s in singles action and tag team action. Still, they often point to their early 1980s feud against babyfaces Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood as their favorite program. The Briscoes worked in the Mid-Atlantic area for years as babyfaces, battling the area's greatest villains. Imagine the fans' shock and disgust when they turned heel. According to Jack, he and his brother Jerry were getting ready to wind down their in-ring careers and decided to ride off into the sunset as a tag team. According to the book The Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the tag teams, Steamboat and Youngblood told promoter Jim Crockett Jr. that he should turn Jack and Jerry heel. Despite some trepidation, Crockett gave things a try, and the results were phenomenal. The switch came subtly when Jack accidentally injured Steamboat's leg by falling on him when Steamboat was trapped in Jerry's figure four leg lock. At first, Steamboat and Youngblood were willing to forgive and forget, but after the brothers pulled the same shenanigans a few weeks later, it was apparent that they had gone over to the dark side. Thus was born one of Steamboat and Youngblood's greatest feuds. Steamboat and Youngblood had just finished their historic program against Sergeant Slaughter and Don Kernodle, but this one proved a worthy successor. The two teams traded the NWA World Tag Team Championship. Keep in mind that JCP booked its World Tag Team title so well that having a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion like Jack Brisco chase after the belt didn't seem like a step down. The feud was sustained by acts of villainy by the Briscoes, including an angle in which they stole Jay Youngblood's Native American headdress. Jack remembers how the headdress angle raised the feud to the next level. Rather than destroy it though, as the fans would expect, I put the headdress on Jerry. In the weeks ahead, he would wear it to the ring and dance around, while Steamboat and Youngblood stood in their corner, trying to think of a way to get it back. In many ways, the reacquisition of the headdress became more important to them than the World Tag Team title. The series culminated at 1983 Starrcade, where the babyfaces regained the titles from Jack and Jerry in a violent match where wrestler Angelo King Kong Mosca served as special referee. The Midnight Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty versus Pretty Boy Doug Summers and Playboy Buddy Rose. Ask fans about the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, and they'll talk about their great matches in WWF and the epic moment where Shawn Michaels superkicked Jannetty through a plate glass window on the barbershop, or when Jannetty jumped through depending on your point of view. However, ask them about their time as the Midnight Rockers, a team that wrestling legend has it Vern Gagne wanted to name the American Express, and fans will likely remember that they got their start there, but forget about just what they did. For those out of the loop, the Midnight Rockers run in the American Wrestling Association, AWA, against the veteran team of Pretty Boy Doug Summers and Playboy Buddy Rose, established them as a team to watch, and led to their invitation to join the WWF. Doug Summers and Buddy Rose might have seemed like a random pairing, but the two heels gelled immediately, giving the AWA a team to anchor its tag team division. The addition of wrestler Sherry Martel as their manager rounded things out, making Summers and Rose the team fans love to hate, and as fans know, every hated heel team needs a strong babyface opponent. Enter the Midnight Rockers. In his memoir Heartbreak and Triumph, the Shawn Michaels story, Mr. WrestleMania remembers the Doug Summers Buddy Rose team. Pretty Boy Doug Summers and Playboy Buddy Rose were the tag team champions. Both of them could bump real well and were very good workers. Buddy was a ring general, and Marty and I learned a lot from him. Sherry Martel was their manager. She was great, just a super person. According to Shawn, the Midnight Rockers' match against the AWA World Tag Team Champions at Las Vegas' Showboat Arena, aka the Showboat Bloodbath match, elevated the young duo from a bubblegum team to a team that fans and wrestlers took seriously. The feud proved lucrative, with the babyfaces chasing the heels for months for the AWA World Tag Team Championship. The 1980s was a goldmine of tag team talent, but the Midnight Rockers' talent commanded attention. Brian Knobbs of the Nasty Boys was blown away working with Michaels and Jannetty. These guys had it. They had the moves, they had the different combinations, the high-flying combinations that nobody had ever seen before. They could come out of anywhere, that's the thing. They were so agile. They weren't the biggest guys in the world, but it was their speed and their charisma and their flip-flops. Here and there, they're up on the top rope, coming off the way, climb up on the rope and flip back around. Moves that I'd never seen before, because they weren't the big bruising type of guys. Arguably the biggest reason this feud is overlooked is the perception that the AWA was all but dead when it happened. Contemporary fans who mistakenly believed the AWA hurtled into the abyss immediately after Hulk Hogan's 1983 exit are often surprised when they see the talent that remained in the AWA until its final days. For fans who grew up in this era, it's easy to overlook this program due to the many strong tag team programs in the WWF and Jim Crockett promotions. Still, once you've watched these two teams battle, you'll realize the Rockers vs. Rose and Summers feud was one of the many outstanding battles from the 1980s. The Rock and Roll Express, Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton versus Raging Bull Manny Fernandez and Ravishing Rick Rude. While the Rock and Roll Express are best known for their long feuds with the Midnight Express, the Four Horsemen Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, and the Russians, Ivan Koloff, Nikita Koloff, and Crusher Khrushchev, some fans overlooked their feud with manager Paul Jones' team of Ravishing Rick Rude and Raging Bull Manny Fernandez. Part of the reason may be due to the feud ending abruptly after Rick Rude walked out on Jim Crockett Promotions. Nonetheless, this program featured some exciting matches and strong promo work. Fernandez was firmly entrenched as an upper-card talent at the time, while Rude's career was steadily rising after two successful stints in championship wrestling from Florida and the World Class Wrestling Association. The Rude-Fernandez team not only rocked two of wrestling's best mustaches, with manager Paul Jones an upper lip legend in his own right, but were a rugged heel team who could wrestle well and cheat even better. Rude debuted in JCP, blindsiding Ron Garvin while Hands of Stone confronted Manny Fernandez. Rude soon joined Fernandez, and the two immediately began battling NWA World Tag Team Champions, the Rock and Roll Express. The heels came up short until the December 6, 1986 episode of World Championship Wrestling, where they defeated the champs for the titles, with Rude attacking Robert Gibson behind the referee's back, while Gibson was attempting to pin Fernandez. The Rock and Roll Express chased Manny Fernandez and Rick Rude for months, but unsuccessfully. This feud might have reached the heights of the R&R's other feuds had Rick Rude remained in JCP. However, Rude bolted for the WWF, taking the Tag Team Championship belt with him and leading to JCP pulling a phantom title switch. The Sheepherders, Luke Williams and Butch Miller versus Rick Martel and Roddy Piper. This feud raged in the Pacific Northwest Wrestling promotion and proved a pivotal moment for the Sheepherders. According to their memoir, The Bushwhackers, veteran grappler and minority owner in Pacific Northwest Wrestling, Dutch Savage, told Butch and Luke to change their name to the Sheepherders as it sounded tough. "We need something tougher than Kiwis. You guys are rough and tumble like a couple of rugged sheepherders. Let's go with the Sheepherders." Savage also had the two change their ring names. "Sweet William and Nick Carter? That's not going to work either. We need something that sounds tougher." He looked at Butch. "Nick Carter has to go. Let's go with your nickname, Butch. Sheepherder Butch. Sweet William sounds like another gorgeous George. We already had him here," he mused. "Let's go with Luke. Sheepherder Luke." The Sheepherders quickly captured the promotion's tag team title and feuded with various teams over it, including babyfaces Roddy Piper and Rick Martel. As was often the case, the two teams battled in various stipulation matches to keep the feud fresh. Some of the more popular angles we ran in the Pacific Northwest included Flag, Loser Leave Town, tag team street fights, and steel cage matches. It was a televised flag match pitting us with the New Zealand flag against Piper and Martel with the American flag. The finish saw Piper handcuffed to a ring post, while Luke and Butch pummeled Martel, eventually placing an American flag followed by a New Zealand flag on top. The Piper-Martel team was the perfect counter to the Sheepherders. In his first memoir, Roddy Piper describes his team's popularity. Wrestling had reached the height of its popularity in Oregon, and we were taking advantage of it. The tag team of Roddy Piper and Rick Martel was so hot in Portland that a local appliance store owner named Tom Peterson asked us to make an appearance. 4,000 people showed up at this store. Rick Martel remembers working with the Sheepherders in Portland, and how they contrasted with his team with the Rowdy Scott. They were fun. They were different, the different style they had. Roddy and I, man, we used to laugh. Sometimes we had to put our heads down so the people didn't see us laughing. They were really good to work with. Like the many feuds on our list, the Piper-Martel vs. Sheepherders one drew big, but it's often forgotten. One thing that has managed to survive is a promo featuring Piper and Martel, where they hype an upcoming match against the Sheepherders in Vancouver's All-Star Wrestling, a promotion that Pacific Northwest lent its talent to. The fans were concerned with how the Piper-Martel team would do against the brutal Sheepherders. Piper put the fans' concern to rest by demonstrating just how violently crazy he could be. With Martel looking on, Piper grabbed a beer while cutting a promo on the Sheepherders. Then he took the bottle and smashed it against his head. Glass and beer exploded and blood began to ooze. Piper simply continued talking, promising the Sheepherders a match they would never forget. This feud is often overshadowed due to two factors. The first is that Roddy Piper's work before his time in Crockett Promotions in the WWF is often overlooked. The second is that the Sheepherders are best known for their later feuds against the Fabulous Ones, Stan Lane and Steve Keirn, and the Fantastics, Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers. Wrestling's Greatest Moments won't even mention Luke and Butch's alleged run in the WWF. Do you remember these tag team feuds from the 1980s? Do you think they're forgotten or overshadowed? Are there any you'd like to see in a future video? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and let us know if there's any videos you'd like Wrestling's Greatest Moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel, follow us on X and Instagram, and spread the good news about Wrestling's Greatest Moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.